Welcome to part 2 of Born to Run, the book review of the book by Christopher McDougall. At the end of the last part I was talking to you about shoes, and I said I'd have a bit more to say about that in this part, so I'll launch straight into that. I mentioned that the running shoe as we know it didn't exist until Nike invented it in time for the 1972 Olympics. I also mentioned that over-engineered shoes with the what we see as being beneficial arch support, according to McDougall, is not in fact beneficial. It stops the arch from doing what it should naturally do. A couple of things to sort of just finish off that point of view. The first is that one of the studies he cites to substantiate his case about running shoes, and especially expensive ones, not being necessarily the best thing for you, is that one group of researchers got two groups of runners who in every other respect were about equal ability and fitness level and so on, and gave one pair very expensive shoes, $200, $300, $400, $500 shoes, and gave the others cheaper $30, $40 shoes. And the ones with the more expensive shoes had the most injuries and most problems with their feet. Probably the greatest example of the engineered shoe is the recent record holder or new world record holder, which I think was set at the Chicago Marathon by a Kenyan runner. He wore a pair of shoes which was reported in various news reports that I saw were $1,000. That's $1,000 a pair. They contained carbon fibre springs or something like that, and had to conform strictly to a set of rules that Athletics International had come up with, including the fact that they had to be on sale. You had to actually be able to buy these shoes. But as I say, they cost $1,000 a pair, and according to the reports I read, could only be worn once. That is, you could wear them for the marathon, and then they were no good. Now, apparently you could wear them a little bit to become used to them, but you couldn't wear them for running. And it was reported in some of the reports that I saw that the shoes were so awkward, if you like, for anything other than running, that the bloke who had set this new record could barely walk to the stage or the dais or whatever to collect his winner's medal. So that all seems to be pointing in the direction that perhaps running shoes are not the best for you, and that these Tarahumara Indians who run in either bare feet or shoes made of old bits of rubber, old tyres and so on, with bits of leather strapped to their leather thonging used to attach the shoe to their foot, may be onto something. As I said, don't throw your shoes away, because if your feet are like mine and you've worn shoes and socks all the time, they'll be very soft and it'll be very uncomfortable for you for a long time. Although having said that, I'm aware that at one of the park runs that I go to when I'm in Queensland, there's a regular runner who runs in bare feet, and their course is on a concrete path just like the one I'm running on at the moment. Now, a couple of other things that came out of this book that I thought were interesting. Number one was to do with the human cooling system. Humans are one of the few animals that actually sweat. Most other animals, in order to keep themselves cool, have to pant. Your dog, for example, when it goes for a long walk and sits down afterwards and opens its mouth and pants and pants and pants, it's to doing that not because it's thirsty or tired, but because it's trying to cool itself. When it's walking, it can walk with its mouth open, and some air passing through its mouth and across its tongue helps to cool it a little bit, but not as successfully as being able to pant. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to panting as compared to the built-in air conditioning that humans have. The disadvantage, and the biggest disadvantage of it, is that you can only really do it successfully when you're not moving. Now, if you are an antelope or a gazelle or even a baby zebra out in the bushland and you are overheating and you have to stop and pant, there's a good chance that something that preys on you is going to catch you and have you for lunch. Whereas humans, for example, we are able to sweat, and this built-in sweat becomes a built-in air conditioning system, because the sweat stays on your body, and as you move through the air, the sweat cools you down and keeps your temperature within an acceptable range. And according to McDougall and other researchers that he quotes in this book, that ability to sweat means that in fact humans, given the right amount of energy and training and stamina, could literally run forever. So if you had sufficient energy you could run a very, very long time, as these Tarahumara people do, and as the Bushmen of the Kalahari do. Now, the Bushmen of the Kalahari are particularly interesting because what they do is they chase their prey, and they chase their prey which is their food essentially, till it literally drops dead. Now, the gazelle or the antelope or springbok or whatever it is can move very quickly, but only for a very short period of time. And what the Kalahari Bushmen do is separate a few animals off from the rest of the herd so they can't circle back into the herd and be safe, and chase them until they need to stop and pant to cool themselves down, in which case they're captured and killed and eaten, or if they don't stop and pant and cool themselves down, they will simply just die from overheating. So the Kalahari Bushmen have run them to death. And that's just the way of life for them, because where they live is a very dry, barren area. There's not a lot of trees, so they can't make weapons. So the way of capturing their food is to pursue it until the animal just drops dead, essentially. Something else interesting that came out of this book that I thought about, not directly from the book but extrapolated from what he said, was that most other animals, when they're born, again, zebras, giraffes, cows, horses, so on, they can all move pretty well within a couple of hours of being born. So a baby foal is born, or a foal is born, and within a short period of time it's up on its legs and it's moving around. Same with a giraffe and a zebra and so on. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is obviously the bones and muscles in the body are well enough developed and ossified very quickly. Ossified means hardened, by the way, very quickly, so that the animal's weight can be supported by the bones and joints and it can move. The animal is dependent upon the mother for food supply through milk, and if the mother has to move on with the grazing because the grass is all eaten down, they've got to move on, then the baby's got to move on. If the baby doesn't move on, then it's going to become lunch for the lions or zebra or lions or whatever else is in the environment. In the case of human beings, the human babies, they can't walk until they're into their second year of life. So they've turned one and they're starting to walk sometime in that second year. Before that, they go through a period where they can just hold their head up, and then they sit up, and then they can crawl, and then they can walk. Some of that is because the muscles in their neck and the spine is not strong enough yet to support the weight of their head, which is the heaviest part of their body. Some of it is because their bones are not hard enough. Some of it is because they haven't yet got control of their middle ear, and the middle ear is where the human beings get their balance from. But one of the biggest factors in that inability to walk is that in the human foot, and I talked about this in the earlier video and again, is that the human foot with its arch is not fully developed in the baby. If you look at a baby's foot, a newborn baby's foot, it's almost flat, and the arch doesn't develop until they're into their first year, and then develops as they crawl, and then start to put a bit of weight on it by pulling themselves up on the furniture and holding on to things, and then gradually start to walk and start to make the arch do the things that it's supposed to do. Now, of course, there are other factors like the kneecap isn't there and the bones aren't strong enough and the joints aren't yet strong enough, but one of the big factors is that the arch that is the unique part of the human foot and that allows us to do the things that we do, walk and run, isn't properly formed and properly developed. The bones are all there, but they're not hard enough yet. And the muscles are there, but they're not strong enough because they haven't been exercised, and the tendons are all there. It's just the three things that make that thing work together and work the way it's supposed to so that you can walk and then ultimately run are not yet doing what it is that they're supposed to do. So some very interesting things to come out of this book. Eventually, McDougall meets up with some of these Tarahumara Indians in northern Mexico in the Sierra Madre Mountains, and together with some other very strange concoction of people, they put on one of the greatest races that the world has never heard of. It's something like 70 miles of running through some of the most inhospitable country in the world, with these Indian folks running either in bare feet or in these sandals made out of tyres, and a variety of people from California and in particular who are running in all sorts of shoes, and one guy running those shoes that look like gloves. In other words, they've got a space for every toe, competing in this race over, as I said, some of the most inhospitable country that is known to anyone. It's hot, it's dry, it's barren, there's not a lot of water, and so you've got to carry water with you. And they put this race together, and he talks about it and writes about it and gives it a very glowing review. So that's Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. I think if you're interested in reading it, you'll probably find a copy. I'm not sure where the person who gave it to me as a gift. I'm not sure where they got it from. They just found it in the bookstore, I suppose. So I guess if you went into online and looked for it, you'd find it, and you might find it interesting. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found my review of the book Born to Run interesting. If not, hopefully you found the scenery interesting while I've been running, and I shall talk to you again when I'm making the next video, when I'm out running again in the future. So thank you for watching. Any comments or questions, please feel free to add them in the feedback.